One, two, three.
Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new video. Today, me and Anthony are going to be breaking down everything that happened during WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 and touch briefly on the Raw after Mania and some of the notable moments from last night's show. But to kind of start here, I know there's a lot of complaints for Night 1. There's a lot of, satisfaction about Night 2. My issue with the two-night shows, just to start this off, is I feel like when you have these two-night events, I feel like you can't waste one night, which I feel like they wasted night one, and then kind of rely on night two to kind of save the entire show when for weeks you're promoting two nights, and then you have night one, which we'll touch on it later, but most of these matches were short. Night two's matches were also short, but night one, the matches that were short were kind of noticeable than others. But how'd you feel, just before we break down this card a little bit? How'd you feel about the two-night show that we got this weekend?
I feel like night one, like you said, was honestly a waste of time. Which sucks because we have some of the best stars on there. Like you said, we'll touch on that later. But seeing the runtime being 3 hours and 50 minutes and only having an hour and a half of wrestling really just shows how much TKO wants to market this, and just shows that that is the number one thing at mind and not the actual wrestlers. Which is a little bit disappointing to see, given the fact how it's WrestleMania. We all want to see these matches, and for them to be so short in night one was really, really disappointing and kind of just unnecessary. Night two, like we said, was incredible. A lot of great moments to see. A lot of satisfaction. And I feel like if they're gonna do it this style, where there's only, you know, 4 hours of wrestling in total, not even, why not just make it one night? We don't need 2 nights of wrestling. We don't need. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it. I would enjoy it if it was full on wrestling the whole time, but it just feels like a lot of wasted time with advertisements.
Yeah, and starting off night one, we had, as we all know, the first hour of these nights were free. So we started with LA Knight and the Usos versus Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and I Show Speed, which honestly, going into this, I thought it was going to be a good match. I mean, they're trying to get viewers who are watching ESPN who don't have a subscription. They want those viewers to purchase a subscription. So that's what they use these first two matches for. My issue is I feel like this tag match was, which we'll say this for a lot of these matches, but it was short. Like, not a lot of stuff happened. Like, yeah, the I Show Speed spot to Logan Paul was pretty cool. Seeing I Show Speed put Logan Paul frog splash him through the announcer's table. I think that was entertaining. But that was after the match. For the match itself, I mean, not a lot happened. Like I said, we saw I Show Speed like kind of indirectly cost Logan Paul and Austin Theory this match in general, and then taking the pin. But my initial thoughts, I feel like they had an opportunity to do way better with this match. I mean, you had the Usos in there, you had the Vision. Obviously, I Show Speed was kind of the um, we didn't really expect too much from him. I honestly didn't think he did too bad, but they used him more of like the joke wrestler kind of we saw with Logan Paul trying to coach Speed through some of the stuff. But yeah, overall, I think I was doing ratings all throughout the show. This one I rated low, just because not a lot happened, which I expected there to be more. But ultimately with this tag team match, what were your thoughts and how did you like it?
Yeah, I feel almost the same as you. I feel like for a show, like a match that's supposed to start off the night, we've always talked about how the first match of Mania, night one and night two, is supposed to get the crowd into it, and it's supposed to really get the night started. And I feel like this did not, do that at all, given how it was so short. Didn't see much really take place in here, not much stuff that, elevate storylines or any of that. We did get that, speed clip where he, went through the announce table and Logan Paul. I guess that was cool, but like you said, that was after the match, didn't really involve anything in it. And for that being the first hour free, and that's supposed to be the selling point of, making you want to buy ESPN, I wouldn't be surprised if people just don't after that. It was lazy, in my opinion. I'm sorry to say that because, Speed is awesome. The Usos are great. We love LA Knight, Logan Paul, The Vision, all that is cool. But the match was not put together well. And it was just boring. I'm sorry to say it, but it was a boring match.
Yeah, and just before we get into the next match, we'll just touch briefly on Raw after Mania, as we go, because a lot of these, people in this match were on last night's card. But we saw the Vision, obviously, attack Seth Rollins, but then we saw the return of the Street Profits. So now I think they're going the direction. We finally have another tag team that can compete for the titles, which I actually love. So, how do you feel about this potential Street Profits versus the Vision whenever we see it?
Yeah, I think that's incredible. The Street Profits, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins are probably my favorite, or like top three favorite tag team in the entire company. The energy they bring, their move set is incredible. And I think adding them back to the Raw tag team division is going to be unreal. I think that's going to leave a lot to really sink your teeth into. It's going to make stories feel better. And if they were to run a tag team ladder match at some point and add a bunch of tag teams in, that could be amazing. We know how much of a high flyer Montez Ford is, and Angelo Dawkins is the powerhouse of the team. So I think adding them back is just absolutely incredible, and it's going to do wonders for this division.
Yeah, and next up, as we went, along the WrestleMania card, second match, which was also part of that hour that was free that we talked about, was the unsanctioned match between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. When it came to this match, yes, the spots were, all right, but I feel like when it comes to this unsanctioned stuff, and we'll talk about it later with the Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio match, but I feel like when you make these unsanctioned matches where there's, ultimately no rules, I feel like they can do way more spots and like such as fight around the arena, you know, go through three tables, ladders, whatever you need to do. I feel like with this unsanctioned match, it almost felt like it was just like a regular like no disqualification match type of thing when unsanctioned, I mean, should be pretty much like you're fighting everywhere. But ultimately, I don't think the match was terrible. I feel like with the free hour, that's where the issues come into play because you need to time it because they said the first two matches were going to be free and you need to kind of squeeze these into the hour. So I feel like with Jacob and Drew, it was almost some of the spots are nice, but I feel like it was another match that was rushed and we could have got a lot more, especially with the unsanctioned stipulation. But how'd it feel for you? Like, would you have liked to see more spots like outside the ring than we did?
Yeah, I feel like they have really tapped out of the unsanctioned match and really have made no disqualification, false count anywhere. All those matches kind of feel like the same, where they don't really have their identity anymore. I like to use this example a lot. Like back in the Attitude Era with Stone Cold, when there was an unsanctioned match, you were expecting to see somebody get thrown into a river across the road, and you were going to see some of the most unbelievable things, people getting thrown through glass windows, shattered, going all around the stadium. But it feels like they have one spot where they like to go. They like to go over the barricade and kind of just fight around there, and then eventually it spills back into the ring. And it's not great spots anymore. A lot of the spots we see are reused, and we've seen them prior. So it's definitely safe. It's a safe option to go, but I would definitely love to see unsanctioned matches be more unsanctioned, have more violence, have more spots, have more unpredictability, rather than being the same filled spot fest that is just repetitive over time. So unfortunately, that makes this match fall a little bit flat.
Yeah, and um, as they kind of segued into the women's tag championship, the four-way match, it almost felt like they were starting, like it almost felt like the first two matches were like almost like pre-show, and then once they got to like the women's tag, which we'll talk about, it almost felt like that's where WrestleMania started because they pretty much did the intro twice, which kind of felt weird. But nonetheless, we had the women's tag team champion Fatal Four Way, which we saw the return of Paige, which I know was leaked prior. I think on Friday that was leaked. A lot of fans kind of were confused because we saw Nikki Bella and Brie at the Hall of Fame, but then we saw obviously Nikki Bella come out with a microphone. Pretty much all knew who we were going to see, which was Paige. Honestly, I think her in the ring, she looked great. Honestly, usually wrestlers have that ring rust and like obviously the pressure of coming back at a show like WrestleMania. You would think there'd be mistakes made, maybe some ring rust, but Paige honestly looked really good in there, and I was shocked. My prediction came true because walking into this tag match, I had the Bella twins taking the gold, having a special moment, but I'm glad we still got the moment with Paige. The match overall, I think could have been a lot better. I mean, I know this was one of the matches that we said was going to be a sleeper, but honestly felt like a regular, like we've said, like a regular, almost like a SmackDown match or the matches that we've been seeing leading up to this WrestleMania with the tag division for the women. So I feel like once again there could have been a lot more with this match that they could have done. They chose not to, but ultimately Paige and Brie Bella are the new women's tag team champions. Curious what they do with that, with however long Nikki Bella's out for. We'll see what they do with that. But what were your overall thoughts about this women's tag match, and did you like the result of it?
Yeah, I thought this match was fun. I thought it was really good. Obviously, we know how the Page return was spoiled, but that didn't really take away from the moment. Just seeing Paige back in the WWE is very cool. She hasn't been there in a very long time, and her to return like with Brie and Nikki, who were there when she was there like 10 years ago, is just awesome to see. And I think the match all around, although it wasn't, super long or didn't have like, a lot of showcase, I thought it was really fun. And kind of her winning the title right away with Brie shows how they have a lot of trust in her, and I think that her plans like for the future, I think they're gonna have a lot of stuff for her to do. And which is really cool is she's only 33 years old, which is actually unreal. A lot of the stars that have come up after her are like, pushing 40. She's only 33 and she has tons of time left in the company, and she's going to be able to do great things, which I'm excited to see. And I think her winning these tag team titles is just a step in the road, and she's going to do bigger and better things.
Yeah, and as we moved up the card, we had the women's IC championship match between Becky Lynch and AJ Lee. I was very confused with the decision for this. I'm not too shocked because I know they want to probably run a third match at some point. But as we know, Becky Lynch is our new women's IC champion. Whether they run a third match or not, I think they're going to. I know AJ Lee's taking some time off, so it depends on how long she's out. I'm assuming they're going for the SummerSlam third match to kind of end this feud, hopefully, because they're technically tied at 1-1 now. So we'll see what they do. I think this match is another one. And I noticed, I know a lot of people noticed that a lot of the women's matches were short. And I think this one was one of the ones that was, I think it was like around 8 minute mark. And, the other women's were like seven. We'll talk about it in a bit. But I feel like when it comes to the woman, for some reason, they make the matches particularly shorter. I don't know if it was just this Mania or we'll see it moving forward, but a lot of the women's matches specifically were more of the shorter ones here. But when it came to Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, I didn't think the match was terrible. It was more like their first well, honestly, compared to their first match, I think it was a lot better than that one. We'll see if we get a third one and how that one will look. But I didn't mind this match. I was just a little confused having Becky Lynch win here because AJ Lee really didn't have a long title run, and her only real feud was Becky. So, and Becky Lynch is like a 3-time IC champion now. So, I think that's interesting. I think AJ Lee's reign got cut a bit short. We'll see if she can win it back at some point, probably SummerSlam. But overall, how do you feel about Becky Lynch being our new women's IC champion, and how'd you feel with the match?
I'm gonna be completely honest here. Becky Lynch being the new IC champion makes me want to go in a bucket and throw up. All right. She has had more time with this title than I would like to see. And I'm looking at it here again. That Becky versus AJ was an 8-minute match. Okay, they had hardly any time in the ring. And the way she lost was, hitting the turnbuckle, getting hit with a manhandle slam, 1, 2, 3. I get the angle of the beef with Jessica Carr and AJ Lee. I mean, with Jessica Carr and Becky Lynch. I get how that's an angle. We know how Jessica Carr wrestles down in Evolve. And they're probably going to have a match at some point. But I feel like taking the belt off of AJ here was the wrong decision. I know how she's taking time off and all that, but we've seen a lot of champions take time off and still hold the belt. I feel like her title run never took off, never got off the ground, and her only real feud was with Becky Lynch. When she comes back, will she win the title and go on a longer run? I hope so. I hope AJ's able to beat her, get the title back. But all around, I have to give this match a really, really low rating just because of, first off, it was so predictable. The outcome of it was I don't know what the plan is. So I love both performers, but it's just, they got to get out of this vortex of being each other's opponents for the past, 5 months.
Yeah, and as we moved on the card, honestly, the best match of night one, longest match too. I have to keep mentioning times because that was like a huge thing for night one. But we had the ring general Gunther um, beating Seth Rollins because of the Braun Breaker return. This was the best match of night one. I wish we saw more of these matches, which I knew walking into this. We said there on the prediction this match was going to be good. It's two great ring performers. They put on a fantastic show. I loved seeing Braun Breaker back, but I wish we could have saw more of these two go at it because this match was, very highly ranked and the top match on night one. But more of the highlight, Braun Breaker's return happened. He, spared Seth, which Seth ended up getting put in the sleeper by Gunther, and that ended the match, which is how we see a lot of Gunther's matches. And then we saw almost, I don't know if Seth didn't want to take the spot or not, but we saw after the match, once it was all concluded, Gunther was gone. Seth Rollins was kind of standing at the end of the ramp, which we always see the infamous Braun Breaker spares. But this Braun Breaker spare was, not that good. I think he completely missed. I don't know if it was Seth didn't want to take the spot, like I said, or if Braun jumped too early, mistimed it. But that spot at the end was not the best, and it's on video kind of everywhere. But um, overall, the highlight was Braun Breaker is back. Raw after Mania, Braun Breaker takes out Seth Rollins again, leading to Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker at either Backlash or SummerSlam. And then we have the Ring General Gunther on Raw last night. Had that little thing where he mentioned the favor again, which we'll see what that favor is. And then he had an altercation with LA Knight. I don't know if they're going to run a match, maybe like a number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, which if they do that, I have Gunther winning. There's already leaks that Roman Reigns is probably going to be facing Gunther at some point, so I'm assuming that's what they'll do. But before I get too ahead of myself, how do you feel now that we're going to potentially have a match between Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. And how did you feel about that Seth Rollins versus Gunther match?
First off, I want to say, how do you feel that the best match of Mania Night 1 had the least amount of time to build? That's what I'm going to say. Seth and Gunther had almost no time, and yet they put on an unbelievable match. Like you said, I would have loved to see them finish it before Braun Breaker came out. But I think, that was the original plan. Obviously, injuries got in the way. You can't really avoid that. It just happens. It's part of the business. But I'm looking very forward to that match. I think it's going to be unreal. Braun Breaker, one of the best performers you have. Seth Rollins, probably one of the best performers of all time. I think they're going to put on a clinic 5 out of 5 match. It's going to be incredible. Gunther, I'm very interested in to see where he goes. We all know what the favor is, and I think it's going to happen, involving Mr. Lesnar. And going on with LA Knight, like you said, if they end up having a number one contenders match for the title, LA Knight is not winning. I'm sorry. Those title matches with him just don't end well. I think there's a possibility that we don't end up seeing Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns at Backlash. I could possibly see, and that this is going to be a shot in the dark, but I could see Gunther taking out Jacob Fatu before that match, or maybe weeks leading up to it, and taking that spot away from Jacob. I think, if they want to run that feud early, run that match early, the way you do it is you have Gunther take out Fatu. It wouldn't be the first time Jacob Fatu's been taken out of action. If it were to happen again from Gunther, I wouldn't be against it. We know how Roman versus Fatu is a great match. But May 9th, the night of Backlash, is only like 3 short weeks away. And I think they would want to build that matchup more before having it. Like, wouldn't you say? I think having more of a build would be pretty cool. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is just a little bit of a teaser. Maybe we get this match actually at like SummerSlam or down the line, and we get Gunther versus Roman at Backlash. So all around, I think it's really good, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and moving on to the Women's World Championship, which this was a highlighted match for me, a lot of people, because this was honestly one of the top made feuds going into Mania. Lots of heat for this feud, but it was only, like I said, less than 7 minutes. Total it was 6 minutes 50 seconds for a match that had a really great build going into it. I think they deserved to get way more time than they gave them. I know they said it was because of injury. I'm going to call complete BS on that. I understand both women were completely kind of banged up going into this, but I feel like that was, saying it's because of injury is kind of just an excuse for, giving the female shorter matches. But ultimately, this match once again could have had so much more. Obviously, some Judgment Day interference caused Stephanie to lose, and Liv Morgan, simple enough, is our new women's champion, which I think she's going to have a great reign. Like I said, probably a really good 2026 as well. Lots of good feuds I'm hoping they throw in front of her. But before we talk about what happened on Raw, how'd you feel about this match in general?
You know, I love the outcome. Okay, I love Liv Morgan being the champion. We've seen it before. She is one of the best women's champions I've seen. She's incredible. I wish they got more time because we know what they can both do in the ring. We both know that Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer are some of the best performers they have in the women's division. I don't believe the injury aspect of it. You saw Liv; she looked fine. She had a couple bruises on her face. That was it. And I don't think Stephanie's foot is still an issue. I don't think she still has an injury. I feel like they just kind of got caught off guard that fans were so mad that they got less than 7 minutes in the ring. But I love the outcome, but I wish the matches was a lot longer.
Yeah, and then we saw the Raw after Mania. Liv Morgan gets cut short by Sol, which then
Mhm.
leads to a match. Honestly, Sol is now a part of the Raw roster. So with that match with Liv Morgan, honestly, I think this match was great. In Sol debut, she looked, really good, like she's been looking over at NXT. So I'm excited to see what feuds they put her into. Obviously, had a really good showing against Liv Morgan, so that's a good sign. But um, then after we saw Stephanie Vaquer once again, so I'm sensing that they're probably going to do a rematch. I don't know when that's going to be, but I feel like they wouldn't. I don't know why they like to do these stare downs, but I feel like they're going to do a rematch between Liv Morgan and Stephanie. Whether that could be as soon as Backlash, more than likely might be at Backlash. I don't know. We still have a couple weeks, but um, first thing is, how did you feel about Sol debut, and do you think we're going to see a second match between Liv Morgan and Stephanie?
Yeah, I thought her debut was great. I think that one was actually a surprise because she has a match tonight on NXT, Last Woman Standing with Zarya. I could see Soroka losing that match. I think that's going to be her final send off, putting Zarya over. I think after that she's going to be fully main roster. But I thought that was awesome to see. She's a great competitor for it, and having your first match in the main roster being a titles match is just shows how much trust they have in Saruka, that she's going to be one of the biggest stars on the roster, one of the biggest women in the division, and I'm looking forward to that. Touching on the thing with Stephanie Vaquer, I think they run it back at Backlash. I wouldn't be surprised. I think you can expect them to have a much longer match there. Hopefully, like 20 minutes of just mayhem. I could see it getting personal to the point where it's a no disqualification. And maybe there is where we get shades of the turn from Raquel. I think that is one thing I was expecting to see on Raw. Was a turn of Raquel Rodriguez. I thought we were going to see her hit Liv Morgan with a Tejana bomb, take her out, and set that up. But I think that might be more of a SummerSlam esque match. So Stephanie Vaquer versus Liv Morgan 2 at Backlash is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and kind of the last thing, because Liv Morgan, there's that huge feud like you just mentioned between her and Raquel, probably going to be made. Not too sure. I mean, I was expecting it. The Raw after Mania, the Raquel to turn on Liv didn't happen. I feel like the issue they're probably having is, obviously Liv is amazing as a heel. She likes doing the heel part, and if you have Raquel kind of turn against her, I feel like you would have to make Raquel the face there, even though Raquel as a heel works well because she's
Mhm.
a giant, can take out the entire women's division, but I feel like you would have to turn one of them heel, and I feel like Liv Morgan just has that certain character where you can't just turn her face right now. It would probably have to be Raquel. There's also Roxanne floating around, so I'm curious if they have her turn possibly. But I feel like the issue they're having is probably turning, because they're all heel right now, so you have to turn at least one of them face. But I guess at this point, obviously a waiting game. But before we talk too much about that, I just want to briefly talk about the return, well, short return of Bianca Belair, because as we all know, she announced her pregnancy at WrestleMania, which means I don't know how far. The question was, how far along is she? Nobody really knows the exact, time, but it looks like she's going to be out for probably a long time. Could even be a year, more than a year, but we will probably not see Bianca Belair for a while. We will see more Montez Ford, which I like,
Mhm.
but when it comes to Bianca Belair, we wish her the best, and whenever she comes back, we'll be waiting. A lot of people were waiting for her to come back, anyways, and then we saw
Mhm.
her for that short time, which I feel like was kind of her way of saying goodbye for however long we don't see her for, like I said. But simply enough, after that, we had the match that not a lot of people were excited for, to be real. If you said you were excited for that, I mean, between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton is the match I'm referencing here. I wasn't excited for this match. I don't think a lot of people were. Very confusing angles with this, I will say. We had Pat McAfee get jumped, or not jumped, but put through a table by Jelly Roll to start off, which I kind of liked because you got him out of the way. You got the Jelly Roll segment, and then we just saw straight wrestling from Cody and Randy, which I think overall the match was all right. Little confused on the result. Cody Rhodes retaining the belt. But the highlight was Randy Orton RKOing Pat McAfee, which I really liked because officially Pat McAfee's gone. My thing is, why did they waste 2 to 3 weeks on Pat McAfee and then just have Randy pretty much get rid of him immediately? Who knows? I know there was lots of plans that ended up not coming true. I heard Aleister Black was the name that was supposed to be Pat McAfee. TKO got involved, but there was just so much with this match, lots of misdirection. Cody Rhodes is still the champion. After the match, we saw the famous punt kick by Randy Orton to Cody Rhodes, which I thought was awesome. Now, with Pat McAfee being out, I'm glad we finally have Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton by themselves. Probably, I don't know if it's going to be Backlash or if they run it at SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes has, that eye that looks disgusting. We saw it last night. But before I ramble on about this match, how'd you like it in general, and how do you feel about Cody Rhodes retaining over Randy Orton?
Yeah, I feel like I said in prior episodes, Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes was supposed to be the highlight of WrestleMania, one of the highlights, and they really watered it down with Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll being involved. Um, I thought the match was fine, when it was just them two in the ring, but obviously you saw Pat McAfee eat the RKO, which signals to me that he's done. He's completely done. Hopefully he doesn't go try to join Cody Rhodes or show up again. I don't think we'll see any of that. And then the punt kick, and then we see Randy, holding the title. I think that fully sets up their rematch. We know it does. Obviously, last night we saw Cody Rhodes come out and got pressed by CM Punk, which to me is a little bit, concerning given the fact how he said anytime you just say when. So if we are to get that, how does Randy Orton fall in line? Do we make it a triple threat? Do we have another one-on-one? How do we get CM Punk and Randy Orton to start bickering? I could see possibly Randy Orton getting attacked, or other way around. I mean, CM Punk getting attacked by Randy Orton, kind of getting him involved in that feud, because I would love to see Cody versus Punk versus Orton in a triple threat. I think that would be awesome, and if that's the case, that's a SummerSlam match. That's going to headline one of the nights SummerSlam. You have all summer to build that. You could even run Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes at Backlash again. You could run it and then still have that at SummerSlam. I think they're in a safe spot right now with Jelly Roll, Pat McAfee not being involved. I think it is just going to be clean writing from here on out, where you're going to have them two just cutting promos on each other. And I think their Backlash match could be like a 10 out of 10 match. So looking forward to that, and hopefully the build to it is exciting.
Yeah, and obviously, you touched on that CM Punk Cody Rhodes segment that we saw on Raw. And I was trying to think of how we would see this match at some point. I hope they stay away from what I was thinking, but I don't know if they would do this. I hope not. Once again, this is kind of just me, thinking of ideas of how to make that match possible. But I wouldn't be too shocked if CM Punk somehow wins the Money in the Bank. And I know that's a very hot take, probably, steaming hot take, but we've seen it in the past. The Money in the Bank's supposed to be, for the younger talent to kind of get their shot, but I would not be shocked at all if CM Punk somehow wins the Money in the Bank. Whenever that is, I forget when Money in the Bank is. I know it's after SummerSlam, but when it comes to CM Punk, I feel like Perfect. So when it comes to CM Punk, I don't know how we're gonna see that Cody Rhodes match with Randy Orton still being involved. That almost seems to me like, or what WWE loves to do to make this shorter is I feel like they love to tease these matches and then we really never see them. So hopefully we do see CM Punk and Cody at some point, but I think Randy probably is going to win that title at some point. So I don't know if we're going to see that title match happen. I don't know if they just teased it. Um, Honestly, with CM Punk, I know they would never do this, but and I know the fan reaction. We've seen it when they turn stars heel, but CM Punk to me is kind of giving me Hale vibes for some reason. The last couple times we've seen him, I mean, coming out kind of with the CM Punk 2020 or not CM Punk, John Cena 2025 entrance a little bit, where he doesn't really walk out to his music, kind of walks out and it's black, and then his music hits. We probably won't see CM Punk turn heel, obviously, but I've just been getting those vibes the last few weeks with CM Punk, even last night, with him kind of looking at the title for a little bit. But um, kind of to segue this into night two, was the first hour once again was free, which, as we said, night two was a lot better than night one. Ratings were a lot higher as well, I saw. And to start the show off, we had Obafemi make his entrance, which was amazing. I'm honestly glad he got the ovation that he did. Crowd. Only issue is I wish it was nighttime. We know, I don't think it was nighttime at all, to be honest, during these two shows because they started a little bit early. Wish it was nighttime for this entrance. That's the only thing. But nonetheless, crowd was honestly great for both nights, for the superstars as well. Obafemi had a great entrance. Crowd popped for Brock as well, which I thought was nice. Match was another short one, but I honestly liked how it was short because I expected this one to be short. Maybe not as short as we saw, um, but I liked how we saw Brock Lesnar put Obafemi over. That was ultimately the whole goal here. Brock Lesnar chose Obafemi as his opponent for a reason, to put him over. And then just kind of throughout the match, we saw Obafemi take an F5 and then pretty much stand right up and then hit Brock Lesnar with one power bomb, which ended the match, which I feel like wasn't on the plan. I feel like it was supposed to go longer, but I feel like Brock was just like, screw it, let me just take this power bomb. And then the pretty big moment out of this was after the match. Brock throws that X up. We see him take his shoes off, take his gloves off, leave it in the middle of the ring. Very confusing where they're going with that. I know SummerSlam, like we mentioned previously, is in Minnesota, near his hometown. So I'm assuming he's going to have one more match with Gunther, as we said. But as of now, Brock Lesnar is, I guess I should say officially retired. We don't really know yet until it gets closer to SummerSlam, obviously. But when it comes to this match, how did you feel about Obafemi getting the win here, and how did you feel about the Brock Lesnar retirement at the end?
Well, I think the match, in my opinion, was perfect. I think it was perfect length, and I think what we saw was perfect. And I'll explain real quick. You didn't just see Oba completely, obliterate Brock, which I was fearful of. You saw Brock get offense on Oba, and I think it's crucial that you could see that he can, get hurt, and he can, feel, pain. Um, if they had Oba just go in there, squash Brock in like a minute, I feel like that would have been a problem given the fact how you can't have somebody remain unbeatable forever. And I like that aspect because Oba is, he's a very, very strong competitor. And the fact that Brock was able to do that, but not enough, shows that he is stronger than Lesnar, but he's not immortal. And I think that is going to make his character even better. And about the retirement, I think that was a complete shoot. I don't think it had any plans at all. Like you said, you saw him hold up the X to Paul Heyman. I think Paul Heyman was caught off guard too. Michael Cole and Wade Barrett didn't even know what to say, and you saw Triple H say that it wasn't even scripted, it wasn't written, it wasn't, it was just completely out of the blue. If the rumors are true that he wanted a longer match with Oba and decided to call it quits right then and there because he didn't get that, I don't know how I feel. Um, I think it is part of the story with Gunther. I think we see one more match with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, that's going to involve Paul Heyman. That's going to involve the favor that's owed to him. And I think it starts off with Paul Heyman just getting tormented and assaulted by Gunther in later weeks, leading up to SummerSlam. So I don't think Brock is done. I don't think we see him for a couple months. But I think he is going to come out of retirement. I put it in quotes because I don't think he's actually fully retired. And we're going to see him in one last huge match against Gunther.
Yeah, and just to touch on the Brock Lesnar Gunther match quickly. Honestly, honestly, I would have been satisfied with the Obafemi. Just Brock Lesnar losing to Gunther to me is, I know Gunther's, he's the career killer now, but having Brock lose to Gunther in his last match, I feel like would be so disrespectful to Brock Lesnar, just because we've seen Brock Lesnar terrorize the entire WWE for 20 years, and just having Gunther, end his career, just especially if it was like a sleeper hold or something stupid like that. I feel like it would just be a disgrace to Brock Lesnar's, career in general. But we'll see within the next couple weeks what they're doing with that. I'm very curious. We'll see more after Backlash, I'd say, with that feud. But moving up the card, we had the Intercontinental Championship match, which was a ladder match. Honestly, match was amazing. Lots of great spots. Um, Even some of the spots with Rey Mysterio were great. Like when he put Rusev through the ladder, thought that was great. It's really good to see Rey kind of moving like he did in potentially his final WrestleMania. So when it came to the match, lots of great moments, lots of great spots. Penta still retained. We saw um, the second I knew Javon wasn't going to win was when they kept doing those moments that we've seen in the past with LA Knight where they have, where they had Javon kind of climb up the ladder almost twice and then get taken down. And then second time, Penta hits him with a move. Javon Evans out. Penta retains the belt. Excited to see what they do with Penta. I was hoping Javon took the win there. But before we talk about um, what they did with Javon last night, how did you feel about the match in general? And did you feel like Penta was the correct winner here?
Yeah, I think this match was nearly perfect. Obviously, it wasn't super long, but it had amazing spots, like you said. When I think about it, I see, Rusev going right for the ladder from Rey Mysterio, and that nasty Mexican destroyer that Penta hit on JD McDonough on the ladder. Like, it was brutal. The spots were unreal, very cool to see. And I do think the winner was right. I think having Penta retain here was the best option. My prediction was Javon winning. But after seeing that, I feel like, he has a lot of time. He's only 21 years old. He's going to win championships down the line. And I think there's still a lot of meat on Penta on this championship run for him. I think he has a lot of good matches left that he can put on leading up to the summer. Maybe we get a rematch, 1-on-1, Penta versus Javon down the line. Very, very cool. Hopefully we see that. But all around, I give this match like an A+. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, and then obviously last night, quickly, we saw Javon Evans versus Ethan Page making his main roster debut. He'll be on WWE Raw, which I like. I'm curious if they throw on SmackDown, but as we know, Soruka, Ethan Page are going to be on Raw. Newest members when it came to that match between Ethan Page, I think Ethan Page looked great. Obviously, probably immediately, it looks like they're going to, he'll be in some IC championship type of feud soon. And we saw Rusev, which my thing with Rusev, I don't know why they keep pushing him on us, but we saw Rusev get involved here. Obviously, still coming after Javon Evans, still coming after the IC championship in general, which is why I think what we saw last night is going to probably turn into probably as soon as next week's Raw. Honestly, we're probably going to see Javon Evans and Penta versus Ethan Page and Rusev potentially, and then moving forward, I don't know what you do. Maybe you make another triple threat 4-way with the IC championship. Wouldn't mind seeing that, but ultimately, how do you feel about Ethan Page now being on the main roster, and how do you feel about this Rusev, that they keep kind of throwing on us almost?
Well, I'll start off. As we know, I'm a very, very big NXT guy, and I love seeing Ethan Page on the main roster. I love how he still has that same character, all ego. He just came out of a huge feud with Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints. They've been having triple threat matches. I thought he was going to be in NXT for a little bit longer, honestly. I thought they were going to keep him down there and continue with that feud for a bit with Tony D and all that and all them. But him being up on the main roster now and being thrown in this IC title picture honestly makes it so much better, in my opinion. He brings so much to the table, not only by his in-ring talent, but he is probably one of the best characters in all of wrestling. He's like cruel and very harsh to people, and it's kind of hilarious. And I think he is going to eventually be the IC champion sooner than later. About Rusev, though, we talked about this weeks ago, how him being in the ladder match was confusing. Um, and I don't know why they're forcing him on us all of a sudden. It seems like he was on the back burner for a long time up until this build to Mania. He was like randomly thrown in here, and now he is a main star on Raw in this IC title picture, seemingly calling a shot last night against Penta. Um, Honestly, I'm not here for it. I don't think it's the good choice. I don't think fans want him there. I don't, well, not that they don't want him there, but in this feud, there's a lot of other talent to go up against Penta, more high flyers, more younger guys, more people with better character work. It feels like they're just pushing Rusev almost like they forgot he was there and like, oh yeah, we got this guy. Let's throw him in here. It doesn't feel earned. It feels a bit wasted, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, and obviously when we moved up the card, we had Dominic Mysterio versus the return of the Demon, Finn Balor. Which, just to talk about his entrance for a second, shout out to all the creators that sent me videos that were sitting right around the ramp, because just to say it, this Finn Balor Demon entrance was the entrance of the night. I really liked how they did it with the confetti and everything. We saw the return of the Demon, obviously. This match I thought was not shocking that it was good. It was between two great wrestlers. We saw Finn, or the Demon, I should say, take the victory, which was the correct decision. Doing a coup de grace through the table, I really liked as well. Um, Honestly, with the street fight, stipulation, like I said with the match earlier with Jacob and Drew, I feel like you could have did a little more with the street fight stipulation being added. We could have seen, maybe a fight outside the ring, especially because these two kind of had a heated feud, and we'll touch on it because they're still feuding, which is a little bit confusing. But ultimately, how did you feel about the return of the Demon after 5 years, I believe, and him taking the win over Dominic here?
Yeah, I thought it was great. We saw Finn be the Demon at Mania 39, so 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, 3 years ago against Edge, taking a loss. So I was kind of fearful going into this that they would make the Demon lose again. I'm so happy that they didn't. He won. He's probably Finn Balor all around is in my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. I love seeing it. It was absolutely incredible. Like you said, his entrance and all the creators that we saw get that up front. Like, oh my god, that entrance was. I don't think you get any better than that. It was unreal. And on Raw the night after, we see Finn come out, and it looks like he has de-aged like 10 years. He shaved his beard a little bit. He has the trunks on. He's back to full-on babyface Finn. I think there's nothing but huge things coming for Finn Balor. I'm going off track of the match. The match was great. Street fight, amazing. But I think Finn is going to be thrown right into that IC title picture. And I am going to go on to wishful thinking. I've been saying this for a few years now. Give us a Finn title run, please. I just need to see Finn with him gold as his babyface version of himself, and my day would be completely just fulfilled. So, 10 out of 10 match, 10 out of 10 entrance, Finn Balor's character, 10 out of 10, everything just insanely good.
Yeah, and just to kind of end off the Finn Balor thing, obviously, like you mentioned, he looks like his prime self again. A little bit confused why, because we saw him get jumped once again by Dominic Mysterio, so I'm assuming they're still feuding. Maybe Dom's gonna say that Finn didn't beat him and the Demon did, and we'll see a match at Backlash. Honestly, I want these two to stop feuding. Honestly, I think it should have ended at WrestleMania. I hate when, because usually WrestleMania for me and a lot of these feuds usually is like the closing point, and then they start off fresh on the Raw after Mania. And to have these two still feuding is a little bit confusing. So hopefully, as far as feuds go, that ends with hopefully Finn Balor maybe taking another win over Dom as like his vanilla self, I guess you could say. But moving forward, Finn, I love how he's back to looking like his prime self. Finally took the pants off, as I made a post last night, and yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Finn moving forward. But moving on, we had the last 3 matches of the night, which the first one being Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams, which I think was a another decent match. A little bit of interference by Lil Yachty. We saw Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn, I don't know. I'm very confused what they're doing with him. I had Trick Williams taking the win over him, but now it's almost like they're showing shades that Sammy's turning heel, but I don't know what they're gonna do with this moving forward, because we see Trick Williams take the United States Championship from him, and now Sammy's right back to where he was 3 weeks ago, which is why they never should have took the title off of Carmelo. Very confused what they're doing with Sami Zayn, but as far as the match, I think it was an alright match once again, and this was the correct winner as well. I'll say that, because with Trick, you can do a lot of great matches with him over on SmackDown. One of the main ones would be doing Carmelo versus Trick, which we will probably see very soon. Probably we'll see some type of altercation this Friday. But as far as the match went, how did you like it? And are you confused with what they're doing with Sami Zayn?
Honestly, I'm gonna give the match like a 5 out of 10, and I'm gonna explain why. I think Trick winning was incredible. I think him, he's like some of the most over I've seen somebody be fresh out of NXT. Very, very cool, and having this run is gonna be great. The reason why I have the low score though is fully because of Sami Zayn. I like Sammy a lot. I have no idea what the play is for his character, because like we've been saying for a while now, we think he's gonna turn heel. I predicted a double heel at Mania, a double heel turn. Heel and face turn. And we didn't see that. And Sami Zayn is back in stage 1. He said that his goal is to win a championship, like the big one. But that whole spotlight is taken up by Cody, Randy, and Punk. I'm sorry, Sammy, but he's not on that level. Is he just going to get thrown back in this U.S. title feud? I don't know. I feel like they have no plans for him at all. I feel like he's just there and they have nothing for him, which sucks to see. I see them kind of rebuilding this bloodline story over on Raw. Is he going to go over to Raw again and get involved with this? Honestly, I could see him doing that because I don't think there's much on the table for him, which sucks to see because like Sami Zayn is one of the best talent they have. He's one of the best character workers. He's great on the mic, and he just seems to fall flat. So hopefully they prove me wrong. Hopefully we see something big with Sami Zayn in the future. But all signs are pointing towards he's just gonna be running in place like he has been.
Yeah, and our co-main event of night two was Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley, which it's I said this last night. It honestly feels right that Rhea is right back to being women's champion. Specifically, I just want to touch on her. She kind of changed up her attire, and I think it worked well during that match. Her entrance was great once again. When it came to Jade, I think this was one of Jade's, best Mania matches that she's had out of the three I believe she's had now. I think these two put on a really great match, which I don't think a lot of people really expected. I feel like this match, to a lot of people that I saw, they thought it was going to be kind of underwhelming. I feel like it was kind of both superstars showed out. We saw Meech and obviously B-Fab, Io Sky, briefly, but nonetheless, Rhea Ripley is the new women's champion. I'm glad she is. She, looks great with the title, having it back. We saw her at the Raw after Mania. We even saw a moment between her and Liv, quickly both the women's champions, which is kind of ironic because for a long time, Liv Morgan and Rhea were feuding, and now they're both champions. So kind of like a full circle moment there. But nonetheless, like I said, Rhea Ripley is the women's champion. How'd you feel about this match, and how do you feel about Rhea being the women's champ again?
Honestly, this is like the match that I think I have the most to talk about, which is kind of crazy because we have talked for weeks that the build to this match was pretty weak. They didn't really have a lot of promo work, and they didn't really fight a lot until like the week or two beforehand. But surprisingly, they actually put on an amazing match. I thought it was really good. A lot of back and forth. Like you said, the involvement of Meech and BFAB and EO was predictable. We know that was coming, and it happened. But like we said, that championship just looks right on Rhea. And last night on Raw, we saw them, have that tag team match against the Kabuki Warriors. And then after we saw Rhea kind of say goodbye to Io. She's going over to SmackDown. Io's gonna stay on Raw. So, moving forward, I don't think Rhea's gonna have much help. I don't think she's gonna have Io by her side. Um, and that really is going to play a huge factor in her future feuds. If you look over on SmackDown at the big woman star that they have, um, like, can you name like huge stars? Like, I feel like there's not a lot of comp over there for Rhea currently, which is a little bit. I guess it raised a little bit of concern, but I think Rhea could put on a great match like a broomstick. So I'm not really like concerned because her matches are going to be 5 out of 5 stars most of the time. Io, on the other hand, I feel bad for her. She's going to go on her own. Maybe we see her win a title. Again, I could see that possibly happening. She's always a threat. She's always a main event player. Also, but all in all, I'm surprised. Like, I'm giving this whole feud involving everybody, Jade, Rhea, Michin, BFAB, Io, like all that. I'm giving a solid like 8 out of 10, which is really fun to see, and I'm looking forward to see where Rhea goes going into Backlash and then SummerSlam.
Yeah, moving to the final match that we'll talk about, which was the main event, closed the show for night two, which was honestly an amazing match between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. not shocking that we've seen both these guys go at it on separate occasions. We saw them in the triple threat last year. We knew CM Punk versus Roman was going to be great, and like they both said, they put on an amazing show. Um, Great match, lots of great spots in general. With them kind of playing the story that CM Punk really wasn't. He really went until the whales fell off, I guess you can say. But nonetheless, Roman Reigns is our new world heavyweight champion. Which, just before we talk about a little bit potential suitors, how do you feel about this match, and how do you feel that Roman is right back to the top?
First off, this was the best match out of both nights of Mania. Both of these men put on one of the best wrestling matches that I've seen in a long, long, long time. Just showing how incredible they both are and how valuable they are to the company. Absolutely incredible, absolutely insane match. Some crazy spots. CM Punk jumping from the top rope onto the announce table at his age was scary. I am happy he didn't get hurt. But CM Punk has always said that he's a fighting champion. And I think you said it best. He fought until the wheels fell off. He got exhausted. He couldn't go anymore. He went until the very last breath. And Roman Reigns capitalized and won the title. And I think him being the champion and immediately after on the post show saying that he's going to be more full time in the summer is going to be a shade of the past. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible having Roman back on top, being the champion, because as much as we complained about it at the time when Roman was a part timer and he was the champion, you got to admit it was some of the most fun I've had as a wrestling fan. When Roman came out, he was just like aura forming and putting on banger matches. And if we're able to get some of that this summer, I'm looking so forward to it, and I think it's going to be a very fun ride.
Yeah, and then as we saw right after Mania, we touched on it. Jacob Fatu coming out and interrupting Roman, saying he doesn't want to be the tribal chief. He just wants what the tribal chief has, which ultimately, like you said earlier, you don't know if the match is going to happen. I honestly feel like it probably is. Just my thing with Roman versus um, the ring general Gunther right now is it's kind of risky. I'm not going to lie. Obviously, um, you have Gunther taking out all these legends, retiring them. I feel like it's just a really risky match to have them both go at it, because I mean it's like if you have Gunther lose to Roman, it's like then he kind of loses what they've been kind of having him build up. So I think they're going to go the safe route, probably at Backlash, go Jacob and Roman. I think it's a very interesting angle, and I honestly liked it a lot, and that's why I hope this match happens, because it's kind of something new, honestly. I know we've never seen the Gunther thing with Roman. We probably will eventually, but honestly, I really like how we saw Jacob, just because it's something new, a new feud, and if this match gets confirmed next Monday, which we'll talk about when it gets there, um, I'm very interested in the Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu match. Who wins? Probably Roman, but I think these two will put on a really good match. But and then just a quick thing, we saw Obafemi say he's coming after the OTC, with Roman Reigns responding with, "We'll see how Obafemi does during the summer, and then we'll move forward." So just quickly before we'll end with Obafemi talk quickly, but um, when it comes to Roman versus Jacob, is that a match you want to see at Backlash, or would you want to see something else?
Yes, I would like to see it. The reason why I did say that it might not happen and we might see an attack on Jacob taken out by Gunther and he kind of inserts himself in there would be just because of how random this is. Jacob just came out and called his shot which is pretty cool. I think that is kind of awesome to do that. He kind of just said, "I'm here now and we're fighting," which is awesome in my opinion. If it were to happen, these two would put on an amazing match, no doubt. Um, having the inclusion of the Usos in there, you have Jimmy and Jay now seeming to be aligned back with Roman. How do they play it in it? How do they factor in? Because given the fact how they're all faces, Jay, Jimmy, Roman are babyface. Jacob Fatu is also a babyface. Sorry, James, I know you hate this, but if we were to go that way, do we see kind of a dark side of Jay come out? We know how he's been having a crash out recently, looking more like the right hand man. Do they do dirty tactics again to defeat Fatu? Maybe. But now Roman is public enemy number one. He has a big red target on his chest, already being called out by Jacob, called out by Oba, called out by Gunther. He's got LA Knight lurking in there too. So it's going to be a very interesting summer to see where this title reign goes for Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and just to cap off this video here, we'll end with talking about Obafemi because I think he's the main kind of attraction right now. We briefly talked about him earlier, but when it came to the Raw after Mania, he honestly just said the ruler has arrived, put down the mic. Really, all he had to say. But moving into the summer, my issue is I'm curious who they put him up against because. With the Brock Lesnar feud, it worked because obviously Brock Lesnar's a monster as well. But when it comes to Obafemi, I mean, he's just a whole different breed, and you have to be very careful about what feud you throw him into, especially when we got Backlash. We have SummerSlam coming up, and we know the Roman match is probably coming at some point, not now, but probably very soon. When it comes to Obafemi, because I really can't think of much matches for him into the summer. Who would you want? Who would you want to see him face at maybe a Backlash or a SummerSlam?
Yeah, like you said, that is a lot to ask for and very risky. He said the ruler has arrived. And it is kind of, they're going to have a lot to think about in that creative room to make sure that this sticks. Do we see him go down a Cody Rhodes path and go on a side quest throughout the summer? I hope not. It's hard to think about possible suitors to go up against Obafemi because of, like you said, different breed. He is like 6'6", 300 pounds, and can destroy almost everybody. He takes out Brock Lesnar with relative ease. And I don't really see any suitable people to go up against him, which is kind of crazy to me because of like how good he is. Um, I I don't know if he even gets put on the Backlash card. I could see him just completely being left off of it, not because he's not suitable, but because they kind of want to save him. I know we talked about this how Oba kind of feels like an attraction. He feels like someone that is gonna sell tickets. And I would rather him be left off of Backlash and be thrown into a meaningless feud because I don't see him going up against like Brock or anything like that going into it. The thing that I'm fearful of, and I feel like you could be too, is they have Oba meet Gunther too soon. It seems like they don't have any plans for Gunther currently because the World Championship picture is taken up. And if they were to do Oba versus Gunther too early, because that's a feud that we're going to get, it's inevitable. Two monsters, they're going to collide. That could start off the summer. And I feel like, Oba's not eating a loss and he could be fed. Gunther could be fed to Oba because I just don't see a lot of suitable opponents for Obafemi until SummerSlam, where I'm guessing he is going to run into Roman Reigns. Hopefully, maybe I would love to see that, but of other possible suitors, I don't know. But I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Femi, I'm a little bit confused. Like you said, not a lot of opponents. Probably will be off the Backlash card, I would assume. When it comes to him facing Gunther potentially, I know this is an issue with. I talked about it with Gunther. Is when you have or when you have these superstars continue to win and win and win, the ring general Gunther's an example. Oba, they're probably going to make an example of that where you have a superstar who keeps winning these singles matches and doesn't really take a loss. I think Gunther's like 36-1 or something crazy. The issue is when you put two guys who haven't really taken losses, I think it makes for a really good feud. But storyline wise and booking into the future makes it tough. So I think you have to stay away. I'd love if they were to run Oba versus Gunther. I think it's a great match, but like we said with Gunther, very risky, and with Oba Femi as well, it's risky,
Oh.
especially with him just having a win over Brock Lesnar. But just to end this off, I think we're going to see. Obviously, this is still very early. We'll have a lot of answers in this next upcoming weeks. Make sure to stay updated with us because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be posting a lot more than usual once it comes to Backlash, SummerSlam. We'll do another week like we did this week with
Yes,
all the
sir.
WrestleMania content we put out. So with everything we talk about in this video, we'll get a lot of the answers to where the feuds are, storylines are going to be headed soon enough with guys like Oba, Roman, and SmackDown hasn't even happened yet. So we'll update you guys on everything as we go. But just to end this off, make sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok is where we're heavy right now, which is also just over the top talk. You'll see all the reels, you'll see clips from this video over on there, Instagram and TikTok. Make sure to drop a sub. We just passed 400 subs now, so we're on the road to 500 subs now. We thank you all for supporting us once again,
Thank you,
and
guys.
we will catch you all in the upcoming weeks. Thank you, everybody.
See you.
1, 2, 3.